President's pledge to reduce government spending moved one step closer to reality with the filing of the CUTS Act. CUT stands for Cut Unsustainable and Top-Heavy Spending, and it would save $153 billion over a 5-year period. Now, some of its highlights include cutting the federal workforce by 10%, cutting White House and congressional budgets by 15%, a 3-year pay freeze for Congress and federal workers, cutting obsolete or duplicate programs, and reducing Defense Department procurement by 15%. Here to tell us more is the author of the CUTS Act, Republican Congressman Kevin Brady from Texas. Great to see you, Congressman.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks for having me on.
What kind of response are you getting to this bill?
Good response. Lots of interest from members. A couple reasons. One, we picked the president's own deficit reduction suggestions that the White House, Republicans and Democrats agreed would be a good start. Secondly, everyone knows we're living way beyond our means as a country. Washington spending 40% more than we're taking in. And finally, I think people are realizing this isn't just a dollars and percentage issue. It's the question is a bigger one. How big of a federal government do Americans want? Big, bulky, and expensive, or small, lean, and affordable? And taxpayers want lean and affordable.
Well, Congressman, I don't think everybody's happy with it. Let me read you a quote from Colleen Kelly. She's the National Treasury Employees Union president. She had this to say: the bill would leave federal agencies understaffed and underfunded. How do you respond to that?
Well, that's pretty predictable, but in the business world, where people have to survive tough economic times like they do, they don't cut services, they improve services. What they do is they do more with less. More productive workers, more services, they pinch every penny. The federal government can't be exempted from this. We're going to have to do a better job. So cuts in services aren't acceptable. Increased efficiency and productivity has to happen.
Well, are you going to face other challenges, though? Because what we're talking about is $150 billion over 5 years. A lot of money. You're probably going to hit some roadblocks out there.
Yeah, they're serious cuts, so there's going to be serious opposition. But if you think about it, we're running $1 trillion deficit or more today. So this really is just that down payment. It's really to see, our lawmakers serious about cutting the deficit or not, because we have a long way to go beyond this to get to the size of government and back to a balanced budget. So this really is just the first step.
A long, long way, might I say. I want you to respond, though, to something Tim Geithner had to say, the Treasury Secretary. He was quoted as saying, "We're going to take a look at whether we can find political support for a reform of the corporate tax code that will lower rates by broadening the base." He wants to bring down corporate tax rates. He wants to broaden the base. What do you think that means?
Well, I agree. We have to lower our business tax rates. We're falling behind other countries. They're taking a page from our playbook of low taxes and beating us about the head with it and getting stronger economic growth. And I think the point he's making, and I don't always agree with the Secretary, but can we have a simpler tax code that makes us more competitive, doesn't have as many exemptions, deductions, phase-ins, phase-outs? And I think the American public and the business community is far more open to that, perhaps, than at any other time since I've been here.
But isn't he really talking about raising taxes on people? Because when you do cut deductions, when you do cut the loopholes, you're raising taxes on people.
Well, I know from the Republican side, we're not voting on any bill that increases taxes in the aggregate. And in fact, we're just starting with Chairman Dave Camp of the Ways and Means Committee. He's starting a process to look at what are those options for simplification. How can that drive a stronger economy? How do you make sure it's fair to all? And so we're just starting the process. But I think the concept that Mr. Camp and others are looking at, we ought to take a hard look at.
Well, the issue of the debt ceiling, it's coming up. When is Congress going to take that up?
My guess is it's going to be around the end of the first quarter. There's no question America is going to pay its debts. The real question is, are we going to cut up the credit cards? Are we going to restructure ourselves into a smaller government that's leaner, more efficient, that's affordable, and that, in fact, attracts investment in the U.S., not chases it away? So for Republicans, we've got a long way to go. We want some serious reforms.
All right. Well, that's a good way to put it. Are we going to cut up the credit cards? Interesting. We'll be following it. I'm sure we'll talk to you again. Congressman Brady, thank you.
Thank you, Jerry.